Now, I want to follow up from the last video I done about education and how the education system in this country is failing its children. And I want to add to the point that I do understand that, yes, there are still good schools in this country and that there are good teachers. And if anything, I feel for a lot of those good teachers for what they have to put up with, not just in terms of the school system, but another thing that has to be taken into account is the responsibility of parents, because we can blame the education system all we want, but at the end of the day, it's how we decide to also rate. It's the personal responsibility we have in terms of raising in terms of how we raise our children, and how much we're willing to invest in their education and making sure that they get educated at the end of the day. The reason why, sir, I'm not going to try and break it down by race, this, that, or whatever, by race, class, or what social status or whatever. I know all of these things can play a factor, but I just kind of want to look at us all as just British at the end of the day. And, you know, there are people out there who are more willing to invest in their kids' education than others. There are people who have more access to be able to invest in their kids' education than others. There's all these kind of things. But at the end of the day, beyond all of that, it's the time and effort you put in. If you want your child to succeed in life, you will put that effort in to make sure that they get the best, they do the best that they can. It's not always going to be perfect. At the end of the day, each child is their own individual, and as they grow up, they get their own likes, interests, they get involved in their own things. You can't guarantee anything at the end of the day, but I have seen it myself in school growing up, where you do have this kind of mentality with some parents where they believe their child can do no wrong, and if anyone speaks wrongly against their child, if anyone speaks against their child, even if they're in the right in what they're saying, it's just like all they hear is them speaking against the child, and they end up challenging and attacking the teacher rather than listening to what the teacher is saying so that they can understand rather than listening to what the teacher is saying so that they can understand how they can address the issues with their child potentially misbehaving or not performing well in school and things like that at the end of the day. And it also comes down to, what do you want to personally invest in your children? Do you want to invest in your children fancy clothes and all the things that they're saying they want, or do you want to invest in books and extra tutoring and all the extra tutoring and showing them experiences that can inspire them to figure out what they want to be in life? Like all these factors come into play. So like I said, you could talk about the education system as much as possible, but there is a personal responsibility on the, not even just parents, but within the community itself, to help invest in kids and make sure that they learn as best they can and they get an education as best that they can get at the end of the day. And like I said, it doesn't just take the parents, it takes the whole community coming together and trying to make it happen. So yes, there are issues with the education system in this country. It is somewhat failing our children, but at the same time, there are good schools and there are good teachers, and we need to be willing to work with them, and we need to be willing to make the effort ourselves to invest in our children's education.